All right. Welcome, everyone. This is Dynasty the Podcast Show, episode 59. I had made a correction because yesterday I called in my introduction episode 57. Episode 57 was the day before. So it's episode 59. I just want to say this is Dynasty the Podcast Show. I'm with Ira Bush. If I probably missed it. I was kind of correct from yesterday. But thank y'all for tuning in. Listen, it's a big day. It's game day for me. For my 9 through 12 year basketball team. I came in a little late because I was right down the street from where I'm at. I just want to say, man, I start off by just saying, man, I'm thankful and grateful just to be able to be who I am, being able to come on a platform and speak about, what's going on in the world, what's going on in my life. Nothing's perfect, but like I said, everybody has their ups and downs and have their own way of dealing with things. And being able to speak in public is something that I'm gifted at. So I'm gonna just start being consistent on it. I didn't know if I wanted to do it today. It wasn't much for me to say. I had a game today, but I came in anyways. That's what I try to tell my players that I've coached is be consistent. But I'm not really in the mode of doing the show all the time. So I'm getting back into coach mode full time, like I've been speaking on the whole summer. I wish I would have did summer camp. A lot of stuff I want to do without no restrictions because so many people want to put you in a certain realm and think you have to abide by their rules, and they think they're not subjugated to rules. So I try my best to not one time I had it was about a few years ago. I was speaking with my aunt and I was visiting my grandmother as well. So she was like, toe the line. And then I was like, yeah, I got like certain vices that's not, it's nothing I can't handle control. But she was like, the way that who you are, it's like you got to make a decision on being a full-time adult. And, that it's a thin line for, you don't have a lot of room for error. And, I already knew that, but, I'm glad she reiterated with that to me. She, and so I always tell her when I see her that I'm happy to see her. I don't get to see my family often, but I always be wanting to soak up stuff like that. But yeah, that's something I just passing on. Make sure you being mindful. But then just to move along today, I'm gonna talk about what's going on really in politics. It's like it's I don't even know what they think is important right now. They start stuff and I feel like they're gonna make, soldiers in America go to war. I don't know where, but that energy that they're trying to brew up something to make people go to war from the term, deploy people from our they probably do stuff, everybody have missions. I know how that goes, but I'm talking about like really going to like a real war. But it was, I seen that, I'm going right into it. I'm gonna start with politics today. I could talk about the game that I'm, the local league, like, stuff that make me have something that every day. I'm not really down out by anything right now. But the story, yesterday evening, I think it was yesterday evening, it came out that that the president came out and said Obama was committing treason, and I'm like, I'm confused about people coming on a very public news like CNN and MSNBC getting this story, and he'll probably having a soundbite saying it because I haven't listened to it. I just read the title of it, and I don't sit there and watch CNN all day, and I get the information how I get it. They don't want my job is dissect what he said, dissect what I try not to even listen to the commentators that's reporting the news, not to disrespect them, but this is part of my this is what I'm doing right now. So I'm gonna talk about that real quick. So I'm gonna listen to that clip. It's a 10-minute clip. I don't know if I'm gonna play the whole thing. Hopefully the intro kind of says what he said, and I could go right into it. And then I'm gonna talk about him making it the positive of something that happened, because I speak about Asia a lot. Asia and Africa being very important members of United States of America, because there's so many people from that that's descendants of these continents. Correction, continents, meaning multiple United States is looped around their whole continent. You know what I'm saying? So they made some. Japan is very big, very built up, very modernized, and we get a lot of stuff from them, as far as electronics and stuff like that, and other industrial things like clothing, and some it's a story that they made a deal. I don't know what they made a deal on specifically. We're gonna listen to it together. I'm gonna dissect that. So those are two things I'm gonna talk about, as far as the tippy top of politics, what's going on in the mainstream of the world, as far as trade, as far as agreements, and what is it, whatever, back and forth in the world. And no, we're gonna listen to that. Now let's go right into the first one, and then also, if I don't over talk, because I gotta leave early, I gotta make sure I'm out of here on time today, because I gotta be in at the gym at a certain time. I'm gonna play Representative Al Green talking about racism. And that's it's always two negatives to one positive. If that agreement with Japan is a positive for us, you know, I'm looking at it like it's too much stacking up, because you try to appease the people, and then in a positive way, but you got so much brewing that's not great. That's not it looks shady. It looks and I'm not saying it all on him, because you have to consult with the House representatives on the same he picked, and they 9 times out of 10 make persuade him to say these things and do these things, because that's their job. That's what he appointed them for. But we're gonna see, those are 3 things. Then we're gonna talk about, I watched the WNBA game. I watched, I only watched I wanted to stay for the, the Atlanta Dream game, because in the Ace game, but I only where I was watching it, I would have only caught the first half, and I just wanted to go back to the house after I was sitting there for the first game, which I got to watch. It was very entertaining, very back and forth. What game I was watching? I'm gonna slip my mind. That's how bad it is. I talk about it all the time. I'm not. It's not because I'm having old age. It's because people are trying to work on my mental capacity and my intellectual property. And I talk about that all the time with warfare. My mind works very well. I don't need a pen and pad to speak. I don't need nobody trying to wherever however they roaming in America. I don't really need nobody to dock anything. I'm already docking it. I'm already putting it out in the atmosphere. But yeah, the game that I watched was very entertaining. What teams was it? Let me pull it up. That's why I can't stand that, because it's weird. It's weird. It's weirdo energy. Yeah, the Indiana game, the Indiana and the Liberty game. Liberty was, they got a stacked roster. They scored 98 points. Indiana was missing Caitlin Carter. It was very back and forth in the first 3 quarters. And then, the Liberty pulled away at the end, in the middle of the end of third quarter. The Atlanta game, the Ace won. They ended up winning. That was an entertaining game for the first quarter I watched. Very, lot of veterans, lot of like, I like to see games where there's plays called and there's a lot of structure in it. So, that game is one of those games that was very veteran left heavy on both sides, both playoff teams. So I watched both of those games. But actually, the other game was about the same. It was a little bit more up, down, more 3-point shooting. But I actually did want to watch, Minnesota beat Chicago pretty bad, and Seattle got beat pretty bad by Dallas. So, I think Dallas is figuring it out with the talent that they have and the guards play that they have. They can score with anybody. It all stems from them playing defense and, protecting the paint, against those teams with very good post players. And, lost on Washington ended up, they were leading for most of the game to the third quarter. Unfortunately, the Sparks lost one of their key players, but it's good to see that the Spark and the Dallas team they could make a push because they're very young and talented with a couple veterans on each team. So it's key that they have that leadership, at key positions. So I watch. They show clips when you watching those other games, and it's good to see that was a few upsets yesterday. That's good for the game to balance. Washington, Sparks winning it on going all the way across country, to Washington from Los Angeles and winning that game is big for them. I like their team. It was very balanced. A lot of, they had three. I think they had three, almost three. I think three players scored in 20 points or more. So that was a positive for them. I like to see that. It just to me for them, well, that team they have to remember to play defense. I feel like if they commit to defense and their scoring will be more natural. They fast break. They got a lot of everybody could switch. 1 through 4. They probably need a bigger. Draft a dominant, legit because there's so many good post players in the WNBA. They have to draft somebody that compete with those centers type players. And then young. They're young. They're not even. They still got Brittany Griner still playing, you know what I'm saying? So, you need somebody at that level when she was young coming in. They need to draft somebody. I'm not saying they don't got, a player there right now, but I'm talking about just being, top of the line. So that's it for WNBA. Let me get right into for continuing politics because I had it. When somebody messes with my memory like that, I have to that's what I was gonna say when I was watching the game. You know what I'm saying? I already had what I was gonna say. I just had to remember what I was gonna say. So we're gonna go right into the politics, and I talk a lot about sports, so that was my sports for today. So let's go right into the first clip. And this is what I was basically talking about, them reporting on, him having allegations of him committing treason. So we're gonna see what they're talking about. This is sedacious. Google sedacious. Inciting or causing people to rebel against authority of state on or monarch. So that's what he's saying in that he committed treason in that he was inciting that causing people to rebel against basically the country. All right, let's continue to what he was saying. Hmm. Well, I don't really want to hear what they have to say. So, we got both sides, both comments. My biggest thing My biggest thing is what Obama said. He said he said, okay, mind you, 2016, he was the president, if I'm not mistaken. Wasn't he the president? He was the president, or was it right before office or his first year? So last week we you know, a week and a half ago we helped bomb Iran or whatnot. Then you know we go visit right here in Florida. We go visit Alcatraz, Alligator. You know, we visiting I guess immigration camps, prisons. I don't know. This stuff is washed under the rug like it's like in an instant. I don't know why we're talking about something that he's mad about from 2016 and he's the president right now. And you have all these issues you have to deal with that you created. But like you said, he's creating a distraction from all the nasty negative energy that he's put in the atmosphere with his cabinet. And then he doesn't have the right people in position to do the job. So he did not come back with a response on how bad your cabinet is. He just said you're distracting, you're deflecting something you're mad about from something he said, or I don't even know what he was talking about. So it wasn't very detailed. It was just very flagrant. That what he said is treason. What he did is separating what we need to have a real conversation. What he could have did, I guarantee he could have got in touch with his man. He's literally the president right now. He has pride issues. He could call this man and say, "You remember, you know, I'm talking about. I'm talking to y'all. I'm talking to the world right now." He could pick his phone up with the power he has, call this man and say, "Man, you know, in 2016, I really felt like you did something, this and that." I had a personal conversation with this man being the former president. He didn't call. He didn't, you know what I'm saying? Biden and Obama was hip to hip both times. You know, he was the president, he was the vice president. Then he, you know what I'm saying? Like all this stuff is unnecessary. This unnecessary energy. So no, I'm confused about that. So, you know, when I say my first year voting was not his first term because I was 17. I could not vote. I was a senior in high school, going into my senior year when he was coming, you know, 11th grade, going into my senior year. I graduated '09. So I didn't vote for him the first time. I definitely voted. You know, I'm not gonna put my business up, but you know, I'm African American. It was not because of that. It was because he was speaking change. It was because we still need change. It's because they put handcuffs on him the whole time he was in office until the last 2 years of his out of his 8 years. This is stuff that I see because I was in college. This stuff changed right when I was happening. I was coaching in my third, fourth year when I started seeing the difference. When I started seeing them allow our women of African descent to even have a say so, a voice of authority, which is what it's naturally supposed to be if you go over to these countries that they make sure their women are protected. You know, it's a big deal when somebody's woman is not taken care of properly, or you put yourself in a position of power and authority, and they're not taken care of. They the people who continue to recreate birth and recreate life, which is a child. So you know, this is very important in our community. I don't know about his community, but it is. So you know, and like if you notice that when he was with his wife and he's still with his wife, they work hand in hand. She did a lot of things without people knowing because that's what they was fighting for. You know, and then it's still hard for black men still because we got somebody that's ready to tear a black man down that is supposed to be his ally on the phone. And I'm guaranteed he still can call this man right now and he have to answer and pick because that was his job. He needs, you know what I'm saying? I don't get it. He doesn't want to work on the other side of the aisle. He wants to be. He's the one that's doing treason now. So when the next president come in, he gonna bring this clip up by him talking about the division of he want to be divided because there's people that still support Obama. Obama still writes books. His wife still writes books. He has a circle that is still got to be in front of this man's face. So I don't get it. So we're gonna continue. We're gonna let that be what it is. Let's see what he was talking about when it comes down to I don't know when let's see what he was talking about when it came down to the Japan agreement. So we're gonna see what they was talking about. Okay, I'm gonna read it out. I'm gonna let him talk for a little bit because I don't want to hear him talk. He sounds like one of these good old boys. The U.S. Japan trade deal: $500 billion Japan investment into U.S. Japan to open trade on cars and rice. 15% tariff expands to cars and parts. 50% tariff on steel and aluminum remains. So that was the deal. Let's listen to what he in more detail because what he said was very broad. It was not detailed. So I don't know. Let's look and see if they got this Kabini up here talking. Okay, I heard enough. Okay, $500 billion with Japan. So they're basically I don't know if they're giving them $500 billion or they're just planning on spending $500 billion with them or vice versa. However, it's working. So basically, like I said, there's people in America like not just me. It's people that's been putting in a lot of work over times, 10, 30 more years, 10 to 30 more years more than me that need the opportunity to at least see $100 million, not 500 billion, like $100 million in spending just to help the economic system in America. I don't know about cars. We have so many cars sitting on lots in America. I don't know if we're going to be sending cars to Japan. I don't think they need cars. So I don't know if they're just trying to this is another way of still stealing money out of American pockets, stealing money out of American pockets, stealing money out of American pockets, and stealing money out of American pockets. That's what it sounds like. Or I have to owe these people some back end deal because he didn't have no details. He just know he owes Japan $500 million or whatever it is. So when it comes to this, it's a straw man story. Something he just said got to throw under the rug. It's not that important. So we're gonna move on. Um, yeah, so let's go to Representative Al Green exposing racism in Texas. Now, the reason why I like him speaking because Texas is very similar to Florida. I was actually fortunately I was up there for almost a month, and I enjoyed it. But I actually seen, how they treat, you know, I seen how it's very divided, and it's not no in between when it comes for far as wealth gap. You either got it or you don't got it, and it ain't even close. Most people have homes to stay in. It's not hard to obtain. You have to be on your P's and Q's when you're up there. You have to abide by certain rules, I guess. I ain't gonna get into it, but I enjoyed my time. It was it's a lot of stuff that's available. And it's very similar to Florida. It's a very sundown type of state, just like Florida is. You just gotta be. If you're born in the state, you know what I mean by sundown. Like you gotta have your own little group so you can move around properly. It get real weird sometimes when people don't get their way. So they got the person in the office that they want in Texas, Florida as well. I stay here, but you shouldn't. They need to. It's up for multiple people and majority of the people to come out. It's gonna happen over time. It's coming soon. Trust me, it's coming soon. It's already in the works. We don't have to. I can't make. I don't know. I'm trying to make it sound. Important. So let me just play it. So let's see what he had to say. I like when he speaks. He speaks with authority. He speaks with some real. Let me start from the beginning. Now, okay, they're doing this whole. Okay, this man is getting. He's getting put on as when you have that much. When you have that much length, I'm gonna call it that much length in politics like he does. There's no way when he speaks about something this important that I've been speaking on since I've been speaking, since I put back Dynasty the podcast show on YouTube, since I've been taking, he's literally talking about the stuff that I've been feeling that I had to come out and speak as well. So when I play their clips, I already tell you I speak before I even hear it now because I already know that they on the same wavelength as me. So when this guy is speaking from elder's position, I don't, I've been there, I've seen how it operates up there. It can be evenly balanced at Texas easily. But it's like when they get mad, they don't get their way. They start doing all this cross-handed, cockamamie, cross behind tactics, like he just said, back and forth letters to white supremacist groups and these people have high ranking positions. These people are, appointed on the opposite side of him, but they're supposed to work with him as a representative. So he's like, well, I got the information, but y'all trying to kick people out that's All y'all gotta do is communicate. They mad because they're not getting anywhere. They mad they're not having the results. And it's gonna be worse when they take these people out. Because like he said, his platform already built. He gonna bring more people in. He gonna have everybody speaking. It's not just gonna be him. It's gonna be on the bigger platform. It's gonna be on a better platform. I just feel like this, just hearing him speak, the way they tried to cut him off. Um, you know, it's up to people my age group. Stop. It's okay. Okay, it's 24 hours in a day. I actually sleep a lot right now because it's the summer. So I'm not stressing about a dollar really. I'm not in my 20s and teens still. So I'm not really trying to, I guess, live the life. I don't know what life they people think, because when you sell out for money, somebody gonna come in for that debt note. It's always like that. So, but it's not that I'm in debt, it's that people feel like my family owes them. You know what I'm saying? I can't even explain it what type of situation my family in. It's funny. It's not small at all. It's very, let's put it like this. It's very known and it's very weird. So, everything will get straightened out. We just got to continue to protect our family, to protect our lineage, as far as my in-house, both sides, because it got weird. Like I said, it's multiple people, not just me, but I hope everything comes together properly for my family. Like I said, I definitely know what my issue is. I just got to find a strong woman to stand beside me properly and not, what I'm saying? I can't even explain like how I was when I was a teenager and I was in my early 20s. I wasn't like, let's put it like this. I was so, the vibration coming off me it's still the same, but I'm just more mature. It's like I said, it's a lot of warfare, a lot of, high, high level treason going on. I speak about it all the time. Just go back to my old shows. I can't talk too much about it over and over because people gonna think I'm repeating myself. But we're gonna continue to report on proper things and correct these things. Like I said, I catch stuff all the time. I think, I'm gonna definitely be working on stuff, personal things. Like, I can't sell you nothing. I have nothing for you to, buy yet. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just trying to tell truth. I'm trying to put truth in whatever they talk about. I'm trying to put the truth of me from it. You know what I'm saying? Whatever going in the world, whatever going in my community, whatever going on with me, the things that I could share internally, that I will. It's not an issue to me. This is my job. This is something that I'm great at. So that's all it is. Hopefully, Representative Al Green gets the proper support so he doesn't lose his position and rank in his state. Like he was trying to explain at the end, he didn't have enough time to talk about it. But hopefully, he gets his keep his positioning so he can speak for the people who don't have a voice. Like I said, I already started when they cut him off and they had that, they had all them, when he was right in front of the president. I'm gonna say how it was, and I haven't forgotten that speech when they tried to, they got, the House of, Republicans, the representatives of the Republican side, they standing up cheering and yelling, yada yada yada, and they took him out because he was speaking. He had something to say. He had something to, he had a real issue, and he made these people get up yelling and over talking him. So now he doesn't even go in when these people, he goes in and speak that when there's not that many people. When these people don't go to the office, they not doing their job. They out here wasting taxpayers' dollars. Y'all know the story how they do. They waste their money. They waste money on things that's not relevant to success, to making the community successful. They already done did all these cuts. They're already trying to figure out a way to finesse and do corrupt things. So hopefully everything gets situated on his end. But like I said, today I can't stay for long. I gotta get out of here. I think like community outreach, I haven't done much today. Just come and do my show. I'm gonna go have a basketball game, y'all. Look, we got a tough game. We're missing a few players. At the end of the year, everybody got to do their own thing. Go visit their family out of the state or go on vacation with their whole family. So I'm missing a couple players, but I had a nice practice with my team, and just got to see how things work out. I'm missing my sharpshooter. Hopefully, my point guard comes to play today. If he doesn't come back, he said he was going to be back this week. But hopefully he comes back because I'm definitely missing my top 3-point shooter. He leading the team in threes. He's on vacation this week, so we just cross my fingers that my the girl that is on my team, the oldest, she's developed very nicely. Hopefully she can have one of those games where you have that moment, that epiphany, because she got talent. You have that epiphany where you like, I gotta take over. It's time for me to shine. So that's what I'm hoping happens. But we still got the playoffs next week. So the playoff weekday, because it's only one day they split, it's only 4 teams. So it's how I go when it's recreation, and it's youth. So it's gonna be nice. Y'all hopefully y'all keep put the good spirit of winning, and that's all I can say. Now, I spoke about that's pretty much it, man. Y'all, thank y'all for listening. This is Dynasty, the podcast show, and I'm your host, Ira Bush, and I probably will do a show tomorrow. So y'all stay tuned.